Page number 11. We just kind of finished the second link, the karmic formation. And from the formation, karmic formation that lead to non-transparent state comes consciousness that lead to non-transparent state. This is what means by formation called consciousness. So as I mentioned before, once you create whether it's a negative karma or contaminated virtuous karma, to be born in a human realm or God realms, such as formless God realms, then each of those seeds is those karmic potential or seed is planted in consciousness, and that consciousness that is carrying that particular karmic seed or potential in that moment is that the third link, the consciousness. And it is that continuity of that consciousness, the mental consciousness that carries the karmic seed from one like the other life. The four immaterial aggregates, which are the feeling, discrimination, mind, convention, discrimination mind and the compositional factors, mind and those are the four immaterial aggregates that arise in conjunction with the consciousness. Yeah. Along with the physical form. So those are the five aggregates. Is what is meant by consciousness, cause and name and form. Yeah, so name is those four states of mind, and the form is physical form. So those are the five aggregates. So due to those karmic seeds being planted in mental consciousness, and that mental consciousness that carrying the karmic seed continue, and then at certain lifetime, then the right cause and condition comes, and then karmic seeds will ripen, and through that, then you have name and form at the time of conception. Due to the development of the name and form, the fourth link, those contaminated for the five aggregates, the performance of actions through the entryway of six sense sources acquires. And that is what mean by name and form called six sense sources. And that is why also you see often teachings this watching the senses is important, observing and senses, because wherever you direct your senses, then that can lead in contact with the objects, and through the contact with the object, then different emotions, negative emotions, delusion could arise. Those delusions which are part of mental consciousness. Those mental consciousness follow, the sense consciousness that come through the senses sources. And as I mentioned yesterday, the sixth sense faculty or the source are the very subtle, extremely subtle physical matter that act as a bridge between the consciousness and objects. So the subject consciousness can perceive the objects. And as I mentioned yesterday, it's like the microscope that you look the small objects simulated through those six sense faculty or sources that the conscious is able to contact with the objects. From the six sense sources arise the six collections of contact, The six collections, just like six sense sources, the six sense sources are the eye sense faculty or sources, ear sense faculty or sources, nose sense faculty or source, mouth sense or sense sources or faculties, bodily sense or faculties, and mental sense or faculties. So those are the six sense. And each of those six sense act as the cause for those six consciousness, And so here, and then with the six sense sources and faculties, then, it allows the contact to come into the contact, and then contact with each of them, six contact collection of six contact means, the contact of eye sense faculties or sources, the contact with ear sense faculties, the contact with nose sense faculties, the contact with mouth sense faculties, the contact with bodily sense faculties, or the sources here, and then the contact with the mental sense source of faculties. Those are the six collection of contact. And this is what is meant by six sense sources cause contact. And yeah, as mentioned yesterday, the sense sources of faculty allow the consciousness contact with the object. And when we come in contact with the objects, then, different feelings, different emotions arises, And so therefore, again, one of the Buddha's teachings in dealing with stopping arising of those afflictive emotions, there are different practices from starting for the beginner who doesn't have those tools, and then as you develop certain tools with meditation to how to deal, and then high level of dealing with that. At the very beginning level, when you don't have the tool to deal with them, because if we come in contact with the object, it gives rise to different feelings, different negative emotions. So the practice is to keep away from the objects, distant from the object, coming in contact with the objects. And that is a lot of the rules, regulations, practice, many of those rules, regulations, or moral discipline are for that purpose. if you have the tools, then it wouldn't be a problem. Coming in contact with the object. You have the tools, so you can apply the antidotes so that the delusion doesn't arise. But when you don't have the tools and you cannot control those affective emotions and feelings, then it's better to keep away, distance from the contact. And just like someone who has problem addictions, for example, just if they don't have the strong mind to resist, the way to help them is have them keep distance from the object, until they build some kind of determination or some kind of tools, ability. So then when they come in the contact with the object, that they can have the tools to resist it and not be tempted and again relapse, Same with our affective emotions, and that is why, monks, nuns, the order, they have a lot of those rules and regulations. Is a way to, and that's why a lot of times the monastery is supposed to be very far away from the cities, and that is because those who are training, and they don't have not all of them have developed high practice meditation where they can stop, even when they come in object of attachment, where they can stop their attachments, even when they come in object with someone who is annoying person, where they can stop their mind from being upset and angry, even when there is so much object of distraction where your mind can keep away from distraction. Not everyone has those tools, especially when you are training. And so at the very beginning is to keep away the object. And then you train. So that is very beginner level, that is the practice, the Buddha, keep away from coming in contact with the object that give rise to those delusions. And then slowly, if someone really in such environment or different environment, when you develop meditations and you have certain level of, meditative concentrations, shamatas, samadhis, then through such meditations, even when you come in contact with the objects, through your deep meditation, you can somehow, through such technique, then you don't allow those affective emotions to arise because you have that practice, that meditations. And so even you come in an object, not strong attachment arises, not strong, anger and all other arises because, but still, so that is kind of like the second level of the practice dealing with the affective emotions. Now you are make a progress in the first stage. Now you can come in contact with the objects, but not allowing those affective emotions to overpower you. You have some meditation tools. But still, even though it is not disturbing or agitating you so strongly, intense because of that, but the afflictive emotions are still there, maybe on subtle level. And then to get rid of them, then you need the wisdom, realizing the emptiness. And that is a training in the wisdom. So that is, the three training of moral discipline, training of meditative concentration, training the wisdom. Sometimes we known as very high training, or in terms of eightfold path, as we discussed. So those are, progressively, it's all dealing with how to deal with the affective emotion, progressively how we can start at the very beginning and develop those tools and then progress to the second level. And then with that meditative concentration, then you develop special insight, the wisdom realizing emptiness, and that with that wisdom realizing emptiness, then you can cut the delusion from the very root. And then you don't have to worry about that. And so So that is where, in terms of the contact, that's where it comes. Beginner, one of the instructions for the very beginner, if you don't have tool, then is keep away from coming in contact with the object. And that is what some people ask me, well, I want to be informed of what is going in the world, but when you are reading or watching news, it disturbs your minds. So if you don't have the tool, better not watch. If you're really upsetting and giving sleepless nights and all this worry, fear, anxiety, better keep away. But if you have tools to deal with that, you have some practice tools that it doesn't really make you so upset. It doesn't make you so much fearful, worry because of you watching or reading it. Then being informed of what is going and knowing that is good. So it depends on it, so how much you are able to deal, how much tools you have able to deal with that. So sensations, of course, whether that was the right translation or not, I'm not sure. But, as I said, feeling is another translation. Sensation or feeling occur precisely according to the type of contact that occurs. And this is what means by contact called sensations. So part of the contact is, then you come into contact with the object, your mind, those six mind, whether it's a five sense consciousness or mental consciousness, come into contact with the objects, whether it's the external object, internal objects, And then part of that contact is also it kind of distinguish or interpret objects. Or this is nice object. It's not so nice object. It's a good object. It's a bad object. It's meaningful, not meaningful, neutral. Whatever we distinguish, it's part of that contact. Once you come in contact, your mind distinguish. It's very hard just to watch the object without any thought, without giving any labels. Simply just watching this flower for a few minutes, few seconds without labeling anything. See whether you can do it. It is interesting. Whether you are listening any sound, whether you are smelling any things, whether you are tasting anything, whether you are touching anything, just observing that object, just looking at it or listening without any label, giving this is good, this is nice, this is big, this is small, this is blue, this is white, this is, or saying, or without any thought, just. So for us ordinary beings, unlike when those thoughts come and it distinguish part of that. Once we come in contact with that object, when you see the object, then our mind started to distinguish or label or interpret in three different ways, nice, bad, so, generally kind of in three categories. On the basis of that, then three different feeling or sensation arises. When our mind interprets it, or when we distinguish as something nice, good, positive, and when you experience that object to come in contact, then it gives rise to pleasant feelings. And when contact come into object with the contact, and then our mind interprets it as negative, something bad, distinguish as something bad, and then like experiencing that object, then feeling is unpleasant feeling, And then the middle one, neutral, then the feeling is more neutral. So that is what with the sensation occur precisely according to the type of contact that occur, that's what it means, type of contact it occurs. Type of contact it occurs means, whether your contact with something positive or whether you contact something negative, bad, or whether it's middle, neutral. Depending on that, then any type of feeling or sensation arises. Are we clear? Yeah. And according to that, then different emotions arises. Is a pleasant feeling, then attachment. Unpleasant feeling, aversions. Neutral feeling, then kind of neutral feelings, kind of more ignorance. Releasing those different kind of sensations and taking delight in them, clinging to them, and to persist clinging to them is what meant by sensation called craving. So we experience, by coming into those different feelings, especially, when we have a good feeling, nice feeling, pleasant, positive feeling in relation to the objects, then that is when, we take delight in them, and we cling to them, we grasp them, and keep on persist clinging to them. And then, we want to have more and more. We don't want to lose that. We don't want to lose that. And we want to improve. We want to have more and more, better and better. And that is the craving. That's the craving. From releasing, taking delight, clinging, persistent clinging, come an unwillingness to let it go with a repeated wish. So, your craving or desire attachment have become more strong, that you don't want to let it go, you want to hold on that, you don't want to lose it. And then with a strong, this kind of wish repeated, may I never part from those dear and delightful forms, having a strong, not wanting to give, not wanting to lose, not wanting to separate, and having that strong. And that's what in my craving calls appropriations. And as I mentioned, some other translations, grasping, And as I mentioned yesterday, this craving and grasping is the condition that activates the karmic seed. So of course here we are talking about not all kind of karmic seeds. Here more we are talking about especially ripening karma seeds. When you talk about karmic seeds, so in some karma result as well as the cause, there is a ripening karma, there's environmental karmic result, there is similar experience, similar actions, and so on. This one is particularly talking about ripening karma because we are talking about rebirth. Not all the karma has, or not all the action of karma has give rise to rebirth, or it doesn't become a ripening, not karma has a ripening result. This is what we call throwing karma or projecting karma, different translations. Throwing or projecting karma. And that means it is throwing or projecting or ripening or particular rebirth. And not all karma are projecting or throwing karma, Mm, mm. There are some other karma which is completion karma, not a throwing karma, some actions that help to activate and experience something, but not necessarily rebirth. So we are here, we're talking more of that, particularly more of that when you talk about 12 links. And so there are certain, whether it's positive karma, negative karma, some of the karma are not complete karma. When it is not complete karma, then it cannot be a throwing karma. To be a throwing karma, the karma has to be complete. And to be a complete karma, then 4 conditions need to come together. When all the 4 conditions are there, then it can become a complete karma. And when it's complete karma, then it can become a throwing karma or projecting karma that project or samsara rebirth, Are we clear? Yeah. 4 conditions are, the intentions, the motivations, and then actions and completions, And each karma, sometimes we have the 3 of them and not the 4. Sometimes we do even good or bad. Sometimes we engage in a good, positive, or negative actions, but without proper negative intention or positive intention. So in that cases, one of conditions is missing there. Yeah, the intentions, the motivations, and then the objects. The object is one, and then and within the intentions, it can come to in terms of negative karma, the delusions and the intention itself, the objects, the actions, and completions. So in terms of killing, for example, the object is someone other than yourself. Okay? To be the complete actions. To have the complete actions of taking life, the object has to be someone who is other than yourself. If you kill yourself, then one of conditions is not completed. The object, the right object is not there. Intention is to take a life, And then there will be delusions involved. It could be out of attachment, it could be out of anger, it could be out of ignorance, it could be whatever part of that. Then actions is how you take someone's life violently or cunningly, whether it's poisoning or ordering someone to kill, whatever, however, with the action. Completion is when the other person dies before you. You die before that other person died through your actions, then again, completion not completed. Because you don't have time to rejoice and feel good about your actions, So sometimes there can be, in taking someone's life, for example, all the 4 conditions might be there. Sometimes there might be 3 conditions, sometimes there might be 2 conditions, someone it might be just 1 condition. So when not the all 4 conditions are there, then it's not complete action. In terms of this, that negative karma of taking a life is not completed because if one of those conditions are not present there. Yes.
How about when you're dying, right? And the throwing karma then, So intention, motivation, but what's the action and, the outcome there?
Dying is not to do with dying. I'm talking about when we are creating a karma, whether it's positive or negative karma. When we are actually creating negative karma, positive karma, then those four conditions has to be there in order to complete that particular karma or that action. And then that becomes, when it becomes complete karma, then it can be a throwing karma. But if the all conditions are not there and it's not complete karma, then it doesn't become a throwing karma. Then it can become a more like completing karma. So then it can affect, instead of having a low rebirth or high rebirth, but it can be something within the high rebirth, something bad or something good happening. Not throwing particular rebirth, but actually different experiences within that rebirth, those result of such action. No, because I was talking about this 8 and 9, the craving, appropriations or the graspings. Because I was talking about those as a condition that activates that throwing karma at the time of death. And such wishes, appropriations, give rise to craving for appropriation. Yeah, okay. Such wish give rise to the rebirth producing actions by means of body, speech, and mind. And this is what is meant by appropriation called becoming. So that karmic seed that you have created by the ignorance is left in the consciousness. And your consciousness has been carrying that karmic seed. At the time of death, then craving and grasping arises. Through the arising of craving and grasping, then it activates one of those karmic seeds. And then having activated one of those karmic seeds, through the craving and grasping or appropriation, then that karmic seed is fully germinated, and that is what becoming is. Now is ready to give rise to the sprout of rebirth. Because the seed has been fully germinated now, and it has reached a point where it will give rise to that sprout of the rebirth any moment. And that is what becoming or existence, the 10. So again, here is another point, is if we are able to stop, through our meditation practice, realization, arising any craving and grasping, then there is no conditions that can activate those karmic seeds. And that means there will be not samsara rebirth in it. Because to have samsara rebirth, it needs to be activated by craving and grasping. So if we have been able to destroy, craving and grasping from arising at all, if we have been able to cut that, even if we have all karmic seeds, billions of karmic seeds to reborn in a samsara, is like a seed that will never get water, or other conditions, therefore it will never be able to produce any kind of plant. again, I think that give again sometimes for me, hope. Because when we talk about karmic seeds from beginner's lifetime, all kinds of karma we have created, billions, more than billions, trillions karmic seeds. And sometimes it feels like it's difficult to kind of get rid of all of them, But again, if we can manage, if we can, through our practice method, if we can manage from arising or any craving or grasping at all, then all these karmic seeds will be useless in producing samsara rebirth. Even though it has been created, it's like a billions of seeds waiting there which never get any conditions. So, and the formations of 5 aggregates born from such actions, that karmic seed or action that has been activated by the craving and grasping, which have been germinated, is what is meant by becoming cause birth, So then, when you take new aggregate, when during the time of conception, so then that is the birth. That's the birth. The moment conception takes, the moment the consciousness enter into the fertilizer, the egg and sperm, the moment it takes consciousness into that, the moment that conception and that moment where the birth stops. And the maturations of the development of aggregate form from birth and their disintegration is what is meant by the birth, cause, aging, and death. So then, the moment you have birth, then it started to, ripen, it started to change, it started to whatever you call develop, and that is aging. And then, eventually, it come to decay and come to the end of the life, and that is the death. And then, as it mentioned before, and at the time of death, then there's sorrow, limitations, suffering, and then distress. All of that comes in relation to the death. And so one experiences all of those sufferings. And of course, all other suffering that come between birth and the death. All other suffering, sickness, all the suffering that comes in relation to the sickness, all the suffering that comes in relation to the separation from the loved ones, from objects that we are attached to, all the sufferings that we encounter by coming in contact with those different objects or circumstances, situations that we don't, that we have aversion to, So all these sufferings, they all come because of such samsara rebirth, because we have such contaminated aggregates. And because of those contaminated aggregates, so all this comes. If our aggregate is not contaminated, if it is the result of contaminated cause and condition, then the experience will be different. It wouldn't be the same experience. Okay? Thus, these 12-fold dependent arisings this inner 12-fold dependent arising of the 12 links, which come from several different causes and from several different conditions. So that is again another important. As I mentioned yesterday, several or many cause and conditions, not just from one cause and condition, many or multiple cause and conditions. And as we mentioned, it's important to take that understanding. A lot of time, as mentioned, we tend to point to just one single cause or single conditions. The way our approach. So then here is those dependent arisings are neither permanent nor impermanent. So here is showing the middle path, non-dualistic, you know. So it is not permanent because we discussed yesterday, because they are ever changing, you know, transitory. At the same time, nor is impermanent, is not impermanent as we discussed, in the sense the continuity of those always there. You know, the continuity is always there. Whatever dependent arising it comes into existence and it decay, it disintegrates. But it continues. The continuity is there. It continues in some different forms, but there is the continuity. And because the continuity is there all the time, so therefore it's like more permanent. Therefore, unlike like impermanent, where it comes, disintegrates, and no more there, but in terms of the continuity, then there is always continuity, and therefore that is more like permanent instead of impermanent. Are we clear? And in the same way, you know, it's neither compounded and nor uncompounded. And so here it says it's not compounded. It says because it's not compounded through the thoughts of someone such as Creator God or Brahma or Ishvara, who first had the intention to aggregate or to create or to produce, and on the basis of that, then it is being produced. Okay? So not compounded means that neither compounded, you know, because it's not created or compounded with the thoughts, such as by the thought of the Creator God, whatever Ishvara, Brahma, whatever, you know, without having a thought that I want to create, I want to compound. On the basis of that is not compounded. So therefore, it's not, nor uncompounded. And is not uncompounded because it is created or compounded by depending on many causes and conditions. Are we clear? Yeah. So it's not uncompounded because it is compounded, because by depending on many causes and conditions, then it is created, it's compounded. So therefore it's not uncompounded. Yeah, here compounded meaning, you know, bringing together, aggregates of being created, you know. Yeah. Due to coming together of many energy, then something is being created. What does compound mean? Yeah, so it is collections of coming many energies, whatever you call it, cause conditions coming together, so put together, so aggregate together, then it produces whatever result it is. It's not without any cause and conditions. Yeah, it's not without any cause and conditions because they are dependent arisings. So those dependent arising, there's condition phenomena are with cause and conditions. It's not an experiences, and because there is no, permanent, there's no permanent experiences, because there's no permanent self, there's no permanent persons, and there's no permanent beings, and therefore it's not an experiencer. It's not something exhaustible. And again, it's not exhaustible by depending on cause and conditions. It gives rise to something, and again, due to that cause and condition, it gives to another things, and due to that cause and condition, then it gives rise to another things, and it keeps continuing according to the cause and conditions. So it continues, it's inexhaustible, and it is something distractible. And it is not something distractible, because it cannot be destroyed by something, unsimilar cause and conditions. When we talk about impermanent, it says the moment something is being created, that from moment the decay starts. The very cause and condition that create that very cause and condition started to also for the decays. And so therefore, there is not something, another different cause and condition, you need to decay that. It's the very same similar cause and condition that give rise to the birth is the very cause for the decay itself. Because it doesn't have that very cause and condition doesn't have the quality to keep it from not decaying. It doesn't have that quality, so therefore it cannot stop from decaying. Instead, that very itself is cause of creating as well as decaying. So therefore, in order to decay or distract, that's what here distractible means. Something that can be stopped, something that can be stopped from decaying. You don't, so that is the meaning of here. Or something that ceases has progressed from time immemorial. Which one?
Page 13,
Hmm?
the third paragraph and the fourth paragraph.
Yeah, they are very similar.
It says thus, and then the next one says this, but otherwise they're exactly the same. Well, they've got a different, they've got a different, conclusion in the fourth paragraph. And we're only in the third paragraph. I'm getting confused. Well, we're making notes on the way. We're up to the third paragraph. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. How is it different from the fourth? We're not up to the fourth yet. So I guess. But you're jumping ahead. I know what you're saying. Usually explain. But it's been a little bit.
For something that cease, So that meaning of that something, it is not something that cease, means, it's not something that cease, because as long as there is the cause and conditions for it to continue, it will continue, and therefore there is no, and has proceeds from the time immemorable, because there is no beginning to the cause and conditions, If you try to see where does that come from, and it come from something, and where does that come from? It come from previous cause and condition. If you come, then where does that come from? The previous cause condition. So the moment you begin to say this is a beginning, then the problem. Then either it has become the first one come without any cause and conditions, or maybe it is created by God. That's how the beginning starts, Otherwise, if there is some cause and condition before that, then you cannot say there is a beginning. Without continuity, like flow of river, and it is there is a continuity, Hmm? Yeah. Sometimes I don't know, even maybe the exact translation. Without discontinuity means the continuing doesn't stop, and the continues like the flow of river. These 12 fold dependent arising, which come from variety of cause and variety of conditions, is neither permanent nor impermanent, it's neither compounded nor uncompounded, it's not without cause nor conditions, is not an experiences, and is not something inexhaustible, something distractible, or something that ceases, has indeed proceeds from time immemorable, without discontinuity, like a flow of river. Okay, so I think as long as I think the most important is to understand the essence of that. Okay. Sometimes we can get caught up in the words, but the main essence of here he's trying to say two opposing things, neither this, neither this. Okay. The main point is to find the middle way. We tend to cling and grasp, oh, this is permanent, oh, this is impermanent, this is arising, this is decaying, this is continuing, this is discontinuing. So with that kind of dualistic approach and view with strong clinging and grasping, then we fall to extremes. So here the message is try to find a middle way, not being so clinging and grasping to do those two different objects. So just like permanent, impermanent, saying, if you look from one point, it's impermanent. If you look from another angle, it's permanent. From the point of continuity, is permanent. From the point of that it is changing, is impermanent. It could be like, and so it is applying to that all objects. And so the main point is to find the middle way without being caught up in one of the extremes, and thereby our mind becoming very rigid and fixed, our mind can become very fixed and rigid because this is the only way. And this is the only right way. And with this kind of very strong dualistic approach and mind, clinging and grasping. And so here the teaching is to let go of that kind of strong dualistic, clinging, grasping mind. And even with just that dependent arising, as he explained, how it can be permanent, impermanent. If you look from the continuity, it is permanent. If you look from the nature of that is changing, it is impermanent. So you don't have to be so grasping and so strongly fixed. Or this could be only permanent, or this could be only impermanent, all of that, And it's learning to be more flexible, more letting go of the tightness.
And not so agitated, open your mind and don't
Yes.
get agitated about it.
Yes, and it is, a lot of time we get so upset and agitated and angry because we think this is the only right way and you are doing wrong and that is absolute wrong and this is the absolute right. But here he is saying, both of you could be right and both of you could be wrong. If you look from one point of view, you are right. If you look from another point of view, you could be wrong. And that person can be wrong from one point of view, but if you look from another point of view, he could be right. Isn't it? And just take that example he gave of permanent, impermanent. Same objects, but the way how you look from what perspective. If you look from continuity perspective, then it becomes permanent in the sense that it is continued all the time. But if you look from the point of view of that is ever changing, then it's impermanent. So it's how you look at from what point of view. And that can be, and we can, so that's what essence is, what we learn from that is that essence. And then the way we apply in our everyday is that don't be so fixed and rigid and say this is absolute right, this is absolutely wrong, all of those things.
Helping us train our mind, Geshela, to see pain arising and lead to an understanding of emptiness.
Yes, the middle way. Yeah.
Yes, number 14. Nevertheless, there are 4 links that serve as a core factor for encompassing the substance distil for the denial. What are those 4 links? They are ignorance, craving, karma, and consciousness. So how does they serve as the cause and factor. So consciousness function as a cause by having the nature of seed. Karma function as a cause by having a nature of field. Ignorant craving function as a cause by having a nature of So karma and affection cause because the consciousness, the third link consciousness carried that karmic seeds. So therefore, it can be function but serve as the nature of seed. Karma and affliction cause the seed of consciousness to grow. Here, the karma functions as the field for the seed of consciousness. So, before, karma functions as the having the nature of field. Here, karma functions as the field of seed of consciousness. Craving motion, the seed of consciousness. The karmic seed that's in consciousness. Ignorance, so the seed of consciousness. Without those conditions, the seed of consciousness does not develop. So in short, one way of putting this is, trying to understand.
Can you put this on, please?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, they can't hear you online. Sorry.
Yeah.
For what? So if we try to keep it more simplified in some as it is explained, so then it's trying to understand in terms of how external dependent arise and work, and how in internal they're trying to so the consciousness is like the field, the garden of the field that carry all the different seeds. And the karma is like all different karma are like a seed, And the ignorant is like the farmer who plant the seed, So ignorant is like the farmer who plant the seed, and seed of what? The seed of karma, different plant or different karmic seeds. And where does it plant? It plants in the field of consciousness, because those karma seeds are left within the consciousness carrying that. And how does that karmic seed get motion and activated? And then those are being activated by the delusions, especially craving and graspings, So the craving and grasping and other delusions are like the water and other conditions, the heat, the light, the wind or the air that it needs. So that functions as all of that. And when all these come together, then the result is produced. Without those coming together, the result cannot be produced. In terms of that, Nagarjuna explains, about the 12 links, three of them as the delusions from the 12 links, two of them as the karma, and the rest of 7 as the suffering result. In terms of those, then the 3 delusions are the ignorance and the craving and grasping. In terms of karma, then there are two. The second link, karmic formation, and the 10th, the becoming. Those are the two, the karma. And then 7, because 5, and then there are other 7. And all other 7s are the sufferings, the result. And that's how one way of putting them in terms of karma, delusion, karma, and result sufferings. And in this process, karma does not think I function as the field for seed of consciousness, nor does the craving think I moisture the seed of consciousness, nor does the ignorant think I sow the seed of consciousness, nor does the seed of consciousness think I am produced by those conditions. Yet, when the seed of consciousness grows, the plant in the field of karma, moisture by the water of craving, and sown in the manure of ignorance, the sprout of name and form manifest by conceiving within the whichever mother's womb the mortal birth, one will take rebirth. Though, true. And this sprout of name and form is not created by itself because it's created by other cause and conditions, such as the first three link, ignorance, karmic formations, and consciousness, because it's a result of that. So it is not created by itself, not created by others, it's not created by others' inherent existing cause and condition. If it is created by others' inherent existing cause and condition, then they wouldn't have any relationship. If they don't have any relationship, because if it's inherent existence, then it would be independent. If they are independent, then they don't rely on each other. If they don't rely on each other, then how can that be cause and condition that can change that someone, that object? Yeah? And therefore is not created by others. And since it's not created by itself and also by others, therefore it's not created by both. And also, like I think we already mentioned before, also not created by the God Ishwara, and not transformed by the time, not derived from the pretty, not dependent on single factors, not born without any causes, nonetheless, from the combination, the union of the mothers, the period of populations and other conditions, the state of consciousness filled with appetite produce the sprout of name and form by conceiving within whichever mother's womb the mode of rebirth, one will take rebirth through. For although things are devoid of honor, so yeah, devoid of ownership, ungraspable, space-like, and natural mark of illusion, there's no differences with question, cause and conditions. So basically, all those things are devoid of, separate kind of honor, or someone who's experienced the subject that is totally unrelated, separate from the objects in heaven, or also ownership, and it cannot be grasped, and also it's like a space, empty, merely empty of something that can be touched or abstracted. In same way, emptiness is absent of inherent existence, merely absent of ignorant existence. And even though everything is empty of inherent existence, even though everything is empty of truly or inherent existence, but then due to coming cause and conditions, it has functions and it effects. And so that is like illusions. So everything is like an illusion. In illusions, even though whatever appears is not real, but due to coming certain cause and condition, it has certain functioning. It has certain effect. Because of that functioning, then it affects sentient beings differently, depending on what kind of illusion they create. Some illusions, it can make people frightening. Some illusion can make people laugh. Some illusion people can make, very joyful, depending on what illusion they create. Even though all those illusions are not true, not real, but coming together of many cause and conditions, particular different illusions created. By creating different illusions, then it affects different sentient beings differently. In the same way, even though everything is empty of inherent existence, nothing exists inherently, but by coming together of many cause and conditions together, then everything has certain function. And due to different functioning of those, due to coming together different cause, and it affects sentient beings differently. Some of them, bring suffering. Some of them bring happiness. Some of them are neutral, and all those different effects. So yeah, basically, explaining there is no contradictions between being empty and at the same time to be able to function due to cause and effect or coming to cause and conditions. If something exists cause and condition and it has certain function, and if it affects sentient beings differently, it doesn't mean it's not empty. Also, if something is empty, it doesn't mean it doesn't have functioning and it doesn't affect. So there is no contradiction, just like the illusions. For instance, the I consciousness arises by 5-way principle. What are those 5 principles? The I consciousness. So again, explaining about how I consciousness dependent arising by depending on many other factors, cause and conditions. How I consciousness can only arise by depending on many other cause, condition, and factor, not by itself. It cannot exist by itself, but it has to exist by I consciousness can exist as an I consciousness and function as an I consciousness only by depending on many other conditions and factors. So that is why such as 5 principles here is factors. The I consciousness arising depending on eyes, so that is the I sense, the eyes sense source or faculty, as well as the object, the form. Even there is eye sense and form, the shape or color, whatever shape, color, then there need to be light. If there's no light, then again, you cannot see because it's the darkness you can see. And then space to be able to see, if there's no space between your eyes and that, then you wouldn't be able to see. The eye consciousness cannot see the object and function as the eye consciousness to be able to see the subject, and appropriate intentions, Here, the I function as the basis of I consciousness. Form functions as the object of perception for the I consciousness. Light function as a visibility medium. Space function as not obstructing. Appropriate attention functions as mental reflections. Without those conditions, I consciousness cannot arise. So in order the I consciousness to arise and functions as I consciousness, then all these cause, conditions, all these principle or conditions or factors have to come together. Without that, so therefore it's dependent arising, and therefore it cannot exist inherently by itself. Therefore, it's empty of existence inherently from its own side. While it's empty of inherently existence from its own side, when all these factors, conditions come together, and then it can perceive the object, and then by perceiving the object, then it can affect and have an effect, different effect. So therefore, while it is empty, at the same time it functions. While it is empty, it arises and it functions. And so there is no contradiction between the appearance and the empty. There's no contradiction between arising and being empty. And to be able to see both is the key to find the middle way. To be able to see both empty and appearance, or both empty and dependent arising, both empty and that while it's empty, but at the same time it functions. And to be able to see that, if we don't see both, then you cannot find the middle way. Then we go in one of the extremes. And not only we need to find the middle way, the right view, the middle way, not only we need to see and find both dependent arising and empty, or appearance and emptiness, but to be able to see both at the same time, simultaneously, within the same objects, as Lama Tsongkhapa explained in middle way, not alternatively. Do you get it? When you see emptiness, you cannot see dependent arising. When you see dependent arising, you cannot see emptiness. If that happens, then it's alternative. Of course, it's like you see the emptiness of the iPad, but you cannot see at that time, you cannot see the dependent arising. And when you see the dependence on this iPad, you cannot see the emptiness. Even though you see both of them, but more alternatively, not simultaneously. But when you shoot that, you haven't completed the final part of the Buddhas, And so, but when you are able to see both simultaneously, then that is when you saw the final thought of the Buddha's intent, or Nagarjuna's intent, as Lama Tsongkhapa in Philippines for express of health, to be able to see both simultaneously, both. And so then, and because you see emptiness, then you have no clinging and grasping. Because you see the dependent arising of the appearance, and therefore, you don't become careless. That you don't become what they call careless, or that you don't, what's the right word? Pay attention, saying big things, because there's nothing, then you don't have to be careful, you don't have to pay any attention what you do, what you don't do, what you think, what you don't think, how you behave, not behave, whether this affects you positively, negatively, and all of that, so yeah. Therefore, as Nagarjuna mentions, and also Lama Tsongkhapa and all, when you really understand the middle way, the right view, and when you understand the emptiness correctly, your faith in karma increase, and your practice of karma become more stronger, not the other way around. But when you have wrong understanding of emptiness, then you think, oh, there's nothing. Therefore, I don't need to think of being moral, immoral, ethical, unethical. Therefore, you don't have to put effort to be ethical. You don't have to put effort to practice the virtues or ethical. You don't have to put effort to avoid unethical, or because there is no ethical, unethical. There is no moral, unmoral. Do you get it? There is that danger. There is that danger. There is not only that danger, sometimes some, mistaken or not qualified teacher can also explain that way to take advantage. You know, has been in the past in different, where they say, oh, if you have this view of moral, immoral, you are dualistic. You should let go of that dualistic view. You have to go beyond dualistic to reach enlightenment. You have to be non-dualistic. So non-dualistic means you don't have this concept of moral, immoral, virtuous, non-virtuous. So therefore, you don't think about it. You don't talk about that. Otherwise, it's obstacles for your enlightenment. With such explanations, how it can be misled, intentionally or unintentionally, and that is when you have wrong understanding of emptiness. When you have correct understanding of emptiness, while you see the emptiness, at the same time, you see the functioning of law of cause and effect, the karma, because of dependent arising. So those are the important. So, yeah. But by the eye, in a sense, source is not the deficiency, and likewise when the light, space, and appropriate intention, no division, and then from the coming together of all of those factors, the eye consciousness arise. The eye does not think I serve as the basis for eye consciousness, nor does the form think I serve as the object of perception for the eye consciousness, nor does the light think I function for the visibility of medium for the eye consciousness, nor does the space think I do not obstruct the eye consciousness, nor does the appropriate intention think I provide mental reflection for the eye consciousness, nor does the eye consciousness think I am produced by those conditions, as eye consciousness is born due to the presence of all those multiple conditions. Similarly, corresponding analysis should be applied to the rest of the faculties. So eye consciousness, ear consciousness, nose consciousness, mouth consciousness, body consciousness, mental consciousness. So we try to apply it in the same way. Here, there's nothing whatsoever that does make that from existence to the next. And because there is no deficiency or requesting cause and condition, the result karma none the least manifest. So here is saying, even though there is no permanent self that migrates from this to the next life, because as we already talked before, there is no permanent self of being or persons. So there is no permanent self that go from this life to the next life. Doesn't make like that, Here, there's nothing whatever migrate from this existence to the next is permanent self that exists. And even though there's no permanent self that go from this to the next, because there's no deficiency with requesting cause and conditions, because there is a cause and conditions that continue, then the result of karma, non-delist manifest. And because, due to cause and conditions of, the consciousness, the impermanent consciousness that continue carrying those karmic seeds. And then, with that, and then taking another form of life, new life, and they're carrying all this karmic seeds. Then when the cause and condition, other condition come together, then the karma will ripen and manifest in that. So therefore, if there is no permanent self that has migrated from this to next, it doesn't mean the karma is lost. That you will not experience the result of your karma, that your result of your karmic, your actions, the consequence of your actions will be wasted or would not be experienced, positive or negative. It's like appearance of reflection of the face on the surface of well-polished mirror. The face does not shift into the surface of mirror. The face does not really shift into it is not actually in the surface of mirror itself. But because there is no deficiency of the requisite, requisite, requisite causes and conditions, the phase nonetheless appear there. It's easy to understand with that example, yeah? And not only it appear, the phase appear there or reflect there, but with that reflection, then it has certain functionings, you know, and then it affect, you know. Similarly, there is no body at all, you know, who transmitted from here after the death and born some else, you know. So again, permanent, any sentient being, permanent sentient beings or inherently acting sentient beings, and because there is no deficient requested cause and condition, the result of karma, nothing nonetheless manifest is like how, so is they give a different example. First, the examples of reflection and mirror, and now it is a different example. For saying how the earth or the moon travel at a distance of 42,000 yojanas above the earth and earth. So isn't that the opposite? Is this the world that travel? So that might be. As its reflection, nonetheless, appear in a small vessel filled with water. Is not the moon move from its position and enter the small vessel filled with water because there is no sufficient of requisite cause and condition, the orb of the moon nonetheless appear here. So it's just different examples. Yeah. Again, likewise, that there is nobody at all permanent or inherently existing, nobody at all who transmigrate from here after the death and is born in somewhere else, elsewhere, and when there is no deficiency of requested causes and conditions, the result of karma nonetheless manifest. Is like how fire ignites from the gathering of its requisite cause and condition, and not when deficient of its requested cause and condition. In the same way, like in different examples, also things are devoid of honor, again devoid of permanent or inherently existing ownership, ungraspable, space-like, because everything's all of them are empty of inherent existence. And then the nature is the mark of illusion. So it's similar like what we already discussed. Even though they are empty of inherent existence, even though they do not exist from its own side, but due to coming together of many causes and conditions, it functions, it effects like an illusion. It has the mark of the illusion, similar like illusions. Because there is no definition requested cause and condition, the state of consciousness born of karma and affliction will nonetheless produce the sprout of name and form by conceiving within whichever mother's womb mode of birth one will take the birth through. Thus is the conditional relation in inner dependent arising has been seen. Here, inner dependent arising is to be seen in terms of 5 aspects. Which are the 5? Which 5? As not permanent, already talked, also be explained, not as discontinued, as already explained, and not involving transmigration and formation of larger result from the small cause, and as a continuity of similar type, which we already explained before. How it is not permanent, again, it's kind of similar to what is already repeated before. It's not, before it is kind of related to the outer dependent arising. Now it is related to the internal dependent arising, but the point is the same. How it is not permanent? It is not permanent because the final aggregate the time are one thing, and those that fall into the fold of birth are another. They are not exactly same. If it is permanent, then it will be exactly same. what follow from the end, from one to other would be exactly same if it's permanent. But again, they are not same. And therefore that shows it's not permanent, you know. That is the final aggregate of the data, not the one that fall within the fold of birth. And at when the only the final aggregated dead cease, do the aggregate that fall within the fold of birth arise. How is it not discontinued? It is not discontinued because aggregate that fall within the fold of birth does not arise from the final aggregate at the death, either when they have already ceased or when they have not at cease, and like the beam of scale trickling up, down, high and low, the aggregate that fall within the fold of birth arise precisely, and when the final aggregate at the death of cease. So again, it is not like the consciousness, has the previous consciousness completely ceased, and then new consciousness completely arises in this. One ceased before, and then later one come into arising. Nor it is, as explained, nor it is like or nor is not being ceased, and then it's arising new, but it is like while it is being ceased, while it's ceasing, the past one is arising the new one in the moment. It's simultaneously while it's ceasing, one is, so therefore that is why, while it is not permanent and not inherent, but it is still continue. Why it's not discontinued, but it stays is continuing. But because it's continued, then it is not permanent in that. How does it not involve transmigration? It does not involve transmigration because being from different classes of existence, different classes of existence, such as 6 ranks, and within each rank, they can be slightly different, bring about the rebirth in the form of birth is equal fortune. How does it entitled formation last result from a small cause? The rapidly or last result of experience from having performed a small action, thus entail the formation last result from a small cause. It involves a continued or similar type because rapidly of an action is experienced precisely according to the actions performed previously. Venerable Buddha, who sees the perfection of wisdom of this dependent arising. So the wisdom of this dependent arising as the emptiness, perfectly taught by the Buddha, and as it actually is and has always, that's what it is. It has always been dependent arising emptiness and forever without life force, devoid of life force. Again, we already explained before, true, unmistaken, unborn, not arising, uncreated, uncompounded, unobstructed, imperceptible, tranquil, fearless, unshakable, inexhaustible, and by nature never still. Whatever fully and truly see is as unreal, then follow, unsubstantial as a sickness, ball, from. So these are different examples. Unmiserable, fierce, and impermanent, tranquil, empty, selfless. Such a person does not reflect on the past, limit thinkings. Did I exist in the past or not? What was I in the past? When you understand emptiness, you don't get so filled up with all these things. When you don't understand emptiness, then we get pulled into what my past might be. We have grasping to that, and what was I past, what will be futures. All of this comes because of not understanding emptiness. If we didn't have understanding, then we wouldn't have all this, such strong grasping. So that's why, when you're so did I exist in past? Not, what was I in the past? How was I in the past? Not that such person reflect on the future, limit thinkings. Your mind doesn't become limited and restrained. And when you think When you don't have understanding emptiness, then that is what it become. Our mind become limited, rigid, and fixed. When you're understanding emptiness, then you don't become so fixed, rigid, and limited. So therefore, we will not think, will I exist in the future or not? What will I be in the future? How will I be in the future? Nor does such person reflect on the present occurrence, thinking, what is it this? What is this? Being what? And what exactly? What will we become? Where does this being come from? Where will it go when transmitted from here at the death? Whichever dogma, medicines, and Brahman hold, throughout the world, whether they involve believe in self, believe in being, believe in life force, believe in person, believe in, so all of them, believing in the kind of Atma or permanent and inherent existence, so that's what, or believe in auspicious sign, goodwill, such dogmas and prone to the agitation and dullness are all abandoned at that time when you have a correct understanding of emptiness, dependent arising. Fully understood all of those as a false, and those dogma are seated at the root and withered like a head of palm trees, never to arise or cease in the future. Venerable Shariputra, who was endowed with such acceptance of Dharma and does perfectly understand the dependent arising purpose for unexcelled, perfect, and complete awakened Tathagata, the Artha, the perfectly and completely awakened one, the one with perfect knowledge and conduct together, nor of the world impossible, editor of the men who need taming, teacher of God, the human, the Bhagwan, the Buddha in this way, such person will become perfect and complete Buddha. After the Bodhisattva Master Maitreya had thus spoken, Venerable Shariputra, together the word of God, human, Asura, and the world rejoice and pray what the Bodhisattva Master Maitreya taught. This concludes the noble Mahayana Sutra, the Rice Seedling. Okay.